President Trump and his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron, marked the second day of meetings at the White House Tuesday, and the president made sure to highlight their close relationship.
Mr. President, they're all saying what a great relationship we have, and they're actually correct. It's not fake news. Finally, it's not fake news. So it's a great honor that you're here. But we do have a very special relationship. In fact, I'll get that little piece of dandruff off. That little piece. We have to make him perfect. He is perfect. So it is really great to be with you, and you are a special friend.
Okay, reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester, is in Washington. So, Julia, in theory, these two should not get along so well because of where they fall on the political spectrum. How should we interpret what we just saw there, a very public embrace of each other?
Right. So we've seen that Emmanuel Macron and President Trump are very different politically. They both ran on very different platforms, and it almost seemed like President Trump was flirting with endorsing Macron's opponent, Marine Le Pen, during the French presidential election last year. However, we've seen that President Trump and Macron were almost relative newcomers in the political environments in the U.S. and France, and I think that's where they really see eye to eye. They understand that there is an anti-establishment political class in each country, and although they'll be on different sides of it, they definitely bond over the fact that they are political outsiders.
So the two discussed everything from the Iran nuclear deal to the Paris Climate Accord. Is Macron maybe one of the few world leaders who could change the president's mind?
Yeah, it's very possible. I think the president very much trusts Emmanuel Macron. It's clear that he likes to be around him. And I think the Europeans have really put a lot of trust in Macron and him going over here first. We see that this week Macron is the first of two European leaders that are going to come over here. So we're seeing Macron here right now, and then he's going to be followed by German Chancellor Angela Merkel. And she has a very difficult relationship with President Trump. I would describe that relationship as frosty. So I think Macron, from a European perspective, is almost warming Trump up, and then will send in Merkel to maybe get some progress on issues such as the Iran nuclear deal and the Paris Climate Accord, where there's so many differences between the Trump administration and the Europeans.
We'll all be watching that closely. Meanwhile, the president's pick for VA Secretary Ronnie Jackson is facing criticism for his past work performance. CBS News can report that President Trump and Jackson met in the Oval Office this afternoon, where the president promised to support him. But do we know how much support Jackson has among lawmakers?
Yeah, so Jackson is kind of a bit of an anomaly because he doesn't have clear-cut support among Democrats or Republicans. I think Democrats and Republicans were very skeptical of Jackson because he doesn't have that much administrative experience in the first place. He's a doctor, and he's being nominated to run this huge bureaucracy. So I think there was a lot of skepticism from that. There's also the allegations that he was a doctor essentially drinking on the job, of taking care of the president. There's been reports of a toxic work environment under him, that he can be abrasive to people working below him. So I think that's taken a lot of Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill off guard. So I wouldn't say he has a lot of allies on Capitol Hill, but from what we heard from him today, he's ready to fight on.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell set up a procedural vote on the president's nomination for Secretary of State, current CIA Director Mike Pompeo, for Thursday. Where does his nomination stand?
Yeah, so we saw that it moved out of committee last night, and it was Mike Pompeo. I guess his nomination process has been a bit fraught between Republicans and Democrats. We've seen that not only Democrats but Republicans such as Rand Paul spoke out against his nomination, but Rand Paul, very last minute yesterday, said he would support him after getting coaxed, I think, by the president and his Republican colleagues. Pompeo is a little different than previous Secretary of State nominees because he doesn't have a lot of support, all around from the president. I think we saw John Kerry and Hillary Clinton get confirmed pretty easily. Secretary Tillerson obviously had a bit of a harder time, but this is different for Trump's nominees. I think a lot of Democrats, as well as some hawkish Republicans, are very concerned about his his history supporting the Iraq War and his stance on the use of torture. So we'll have to see where that goes. And it's interesting because we've seen some Democrats, such as Heidi Heitkamp, say that they would actually support him due to their, I guess, coming from more moderately red states, if you will.
All right, Julia Manchester in Washington. Thank you, Julia.